Welcome to the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast, a show created to help painting company owners build a thriving painting business that does well over $1 million in annual revenue. I'm your host, Brandon Pierpont, founder of Painter Marketing Pros and creator of the popular PCA educational series Learn, Do, Grow, Marketing for Painters. In each episode, I'll be sharing proven tips, strategies, and processes from leading experts in the industry on how they found success in their painting business. We will be interviewing owners of the most successful painting companies in North America and learning from their experiences. Our guest today is Zach Ausherman. Zach runs Ausherman Painting based in York, Pennsylvania. His dad started Ausherman Painting in 1979, and Zach just took over the company in January of 2021. In this episode, Zach discusses some of the struggles he's encountered during the succession of Ausherman Painting, the importance of a strong company culture, and what steps to take when trying to reform a painting company's long-standing culture. If you want to learn more about the topics we discussed in this podcast and how you can use them to grow your painting business, visit paintermarketingpros.com/podcast for free training, as well as the ability to schedule a personalized strategy session for your painting company. That URL again is paintermarketingpros.com/podcast. Well, Zach, thank you very much for being on the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay. I just took over my dad's, it's 9 months now that I took over my dad's painting business January 1st. The business is 42 years old. So it's actually older than me, which is cool too. And he started the business in 79 when we're based out of York, Pennsylvania, and York is about 20 miles south of 3 Mile Island. So when the 3 Mile Island incident happened, my dad was working for another painting contractor, and the painting contractor said, well, if you leave, you're not going to have a job when you get back. Well, he left like a lot of people did because, that was scary, big time scary. And then when he came back, he started his own business. So that was the genesis of everything. And my dad, like many other painters now and in the past, worked by himself or with a guy for about 10, 15 years. And then he got connected to a consulting group out of Richmond, Virginia, that really helped him build out his business more, get out of the field, and be able to work on the business instead of in the business. He also had one or two really key hires that really helped. We have a 32-year guy with us. Just was voted the PCA Craftsman of the Year for 20. Let me make sure I get this right. 2020. Yeah, not this year, but the COVID year. COVID year. So Jody's been with us for 32 years. Jody's really set the standard and really why we are who we are. And we've kind of built off of using consultants to teach us how to grow a little and get, like I said, work on the business that I'm in. And then using Jody's skills and getting the other crew leads to where we need them to be profitable and all that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I love that. I was actually born in York, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot of fun. Yeah, I moved when I was 1, so I don't know anything about it, but was born there.
Well, the peppermint patty was invented here, and but it's now made in Hershey, so
they stole it.
Yeah. That's right.
So Jody, he's been there 32 years. Do you have a lot of employees that have been there for an extended time?
We had a little bit, I'll be honest, we had some turnover right when I came on board. With my dad was a more old school guy. He was more of a, you're going to do what I say when I say it, and you're going to hear it from you if you don't. And when I came in, probably about a little over 5 years ago now, I changed a lot of that. And it was hard for guys to understand that I was. I think. And it was hard for them to get on board a little. So it's kind of strange. So yeah, he's been with us for 32 years. Our second longest tenured guy, probably about 10, 12.
Okay.
And then we dropped down to a lot of the guys that started right after I came on board are still with us. So, 3, 4, 5 years.
And how many painters do you guys have?
We have 12.
12. Are those all W-2?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys don't
Yeah.
use subcontractors.
We don't. That's one way that we differentiate ourselves right now. York is, I call it more of like a mid-sized market. It's not huge. We look at our market as like 750,000 people, something like that. So it's easier for us to differentiate ourselves and use that as, all the painters that are coming to your job site are our employees.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
the and I know you probably have guys that listen from New Jersey, but we use this a lot. If a franchise guy comes and sells you the job, they could be pulling subs from anywhere, even from New Jersey. People, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
God forbid.
Right.
Can you imagine these guys from New Jersey coming over here?
I
Good Lord, you
know.
need to
My
hire us.
gosh.
Apologies to anyone who is listening from New Jersey.
Right. Exactly.
That's funny. Well, hey, whatever's resonating with the market, right? As long as it's not too bad.
Right.
So this idea that you came on board, 5 years ago, what was your role initially? I know you took it over 9 months ago.
Mhm. So I painted again for about 8 months. So I was back. So when I went to high school and I was in college, I would paint in the summers. Um, and I realized pretty early on, I think because he started me too young. I think I was 14 when I first went out. It was one of those hot summers,
Hmm.
and we were doing a lot of work in downtown York, which is in the small cities, heat just can't dissipate. So it was just, yeah, I hated it. So I figured at that point that I'd go my own way. Um, and I went to Juniata College, close to Penn State. Got a degree in political science and marketing. And I had two longer jobs before I came back with my dad. So I worked as a lobbyist in Harrisburg.
Okay.
It's Harrisburg's our state capital. And then I was in the equipment industry for about 5 years. And at the point where my dad was molding someone to take over, but it didn't work out, and it was kind of strange. It's weird how things happen. Right around that same time, things weren't going really well with the equipment company that I was employed with. So I said, okay, might as well try it. Because
Yeah.
every couple of years he'd ask me, it's a good opportunity. You've been around it for a long time. Maybe you want to.
Right.
No, 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 no.
It's a
But
family
it just was
business.
right.
Yeah.
It was just strange how everything kind of happened at the same time to make it work. It's weird in life how things happen sometimes like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first came on board, I painted for about 8 months, and then my dad, you can tell, was getting tired of it. We just do after, doing it for 30, 35 years at that point.
Right.
So I got involved with on the sales side and the project management side. Um, Probably that, I think it was that fall, winter, my first year. Um, Pretty quickly, probably within the first 6 months to a year, overtook him in sales. And then I still ran projects and kind of allowed him to go do what he wanted to do, which honestly was best for him not to be around all the time. So kind of got to mold it to the way I wanted it to be, which was good. There was of course some kickback because it is a family business, and you always have those conflicts with the people you love the most.
Right.
One of those things. So I always tell people that I've only one time in my last 5 years have I yelled at my crew,
Mhm.
but I did have screaming matches with my dad a couple times. We just did.
Yeah. So
So
I think this idea of succession planning and it, it being a bit bumpy is an important one. because it is a common theme. At Painter Marketing Pros, we actually find a lot of times that's a good time for us to acquire a client, is when
Mhm.
someone's been running the company for a long time. They tend to be pretty stuck in their ways and not really open to exploring opportunities or growth. But then, their son or daughter inherits the business, and we find they tend to be a little more open-minded. So you said your dad he kind of ran it in an old school fashion. Sounds maybe a little authoritarian with his approach to employees. Can you talk a little bit about your approach to employees and how that maybe didn't work for the people who are accustomed to his style?
Well, so my approach, because I only really had, if you add it all up, maybe a year and a half worth of experience, I had to rely more on my crew leads and our sales guys and all that for their input about what do I do here,
Mhm.
and just that little bit of asking, really. So it's a twofold thing. So you ask and then you follow through. And if you don't follow through, then of course they're not gonna. Why would I even answer you anymore?
Sure.
So you have to do both of those things. And honestly, that was a little bit of a contention with my dad. Well, I've been doing this for a long time. Why aren't you asking me? Well, those are the guys that are in the field every day doing it. So I'm gonna get input from them. Um, I also so when I first started coming in, we have weekly meetings with the crew leads, and it was like going to a funeral every week. It was that bad. I mean, it just sat there,
Oh man.
and now I got it to a point where everybody has input, everybody's got a report, everybody, they make fun of each other here and there a little bit,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. It's much more of a team.
Right.
It almost seemed when I first came in as more of an us versus them thing. Like it's the office versus the crews, and you're never going to get anywhere if it's like that. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah. And I told them early on in a full crew meeting with everybody, I said, if it ever gets back to that way, I'm the first one gone. I'll get rid of it. I'm not going to work in an environment that, everybody hates everybody and everybody hates coming to work. That's
Right.
not what I'm going to do.
What's interesting to me is that it seems that your style of management would be clearly desirable from, a painter employee perspective, but maybe it wasn't, just for some of the painters, just because was it just because they were accustomed to the other style, so they just couldn't adapt, or what was that?
I think it was partially that. So they were always used to the authoritarian. Well, and it was hard for them to deal with someone that said, well, what do you think about this? Or, how would you handle that? Well, just tell me what to do. Um, no, I mean, I need you to, it's kind of the ownership thing. I want you to own your job. I don't want you just to come and do the tasks own it. You're the one running this project, own it. And a lot of the guys just that were stuck in their ways couldn't make that transition. Um, and that's okay, you know.
Yeah.
That's, so
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of changed their role a little bit, and maybe it would have worked for them in the beginning, or maybe that never would have worked, and you just kind of a different company now, right?
the one thing that I've realized pretty within this last 6 months though is I almost need to pull back into that just a little, because if I don't, one of the things I did early on too was I tried to say thank you and I appreciate you and all that kind of stuff as much as I could too. Of course, I mean, they're out there humping their backs, making me money. I mean, making the company money.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I? And I don't know if I ever released. I think it was very rare for my dad to say thank you, and that just sucks. It shouldn't have been like that. But now when I forget to, it's almost like something's wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I gotta find that middle a little bit more. But I mean, I'd rather be on this end than the other end. So
Yeah.
pick your poison.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, how did you get the team meetings to be more fun? Was there anything in particular that you did?
I think just so the biggest thing was it wasn't just all one direction. So when I first went, it was, well, these are the jobs. You're going to do this, this, and this, and barely anybody said anything else. Um, Now it's okay. We're going to go around the room, and you're going to check in on your project. You're going to tell us how it's going, what your hours are, where you're at with things. If there's an issue, let's talk about it. Um, and honestly, I think the guys just like each other more too.
Yeah.
You got a more like-minded group of guys that can chat at each other a little bit, enjoy each other. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense, man. Would you mind
mhm.
sharing where you guys are in revenue and maybe how that has grown or changed over the past several years?
So when I came on board, we were a little less than 3/4 of a million.
Okay.
We had 6 crews. Well, I'm sorry, we have 6 crews now. We had 3 crews at that point. And then we grew it out to 6. We're right around. We're going to be at like 1.4, 1.5.
Okay. Wow. That's
Hopefully
a
by
lot
the
of
end of
growth.
this year.
Yep.
So
And then
yeah,
are you guys primarily residential, commercial? What do you guys focus on?
we're 75-80% residential. One of the We like church work. Church work has been great for us. So that takes up a good chunk of that other commercial. But then we'll do, dentist offices, law offices, um, commercial work that they're willing to pay our rates. It's kind of funny. We get solicited all the time. Well, can you give me a bid to redo this Dunkin' Donuts? I can, but you're not going to like it. So I'm not even going to waste my time.
Really?
So-
So you just, the potential customers that are not going to bite
right.
just from
Right.
years of knowing the market.
Yeah. We have a big general contractor, huge general contractor here in York, called Kinsley. When I first came on board, that I went and did a couple bids for them, and they wanted to tell us what they would pay. I said, that's not how this works. So
Yeah.
don't really even call us. I
Yeah.
don't even, I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah, it's interesting. That I think if as any company, if you don't have a defined sales process, then you end up at the mercy of the buying process, whatever that is, right? And
Right.
probably a lot of painting companies, my guess would be around you maybe don't have a strictly clearly defined sales process, which is how someone, thinks that it's going to go that way. But those clients tend not to be very good clients.
Right.
So
Right.
what kind
Yeah.
kind of focus on sales process? What is your sales process? How does that look?
So both me and my full-time sales guy, we went through the Sandler program. Um, so um, and we're still Word and PDFs for now. We're working through getting our Paint Scout going. It's just been so crazy that I haven't had a lot of time to fight through it to make it happen.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, it's a lot of Sandler, going and trying to set up upfront contracts, upfront expectations for things, and then what that allows you to do. And I'll be honest, my sales guy's a lot better at this than I am. Um, Asking about budgets and that kind of thing to try to weed out the ones that are going to be a waste of your time. Um, One of the things that we've found recently was our average price for a project has almost doubled within the last couple of
Wow.
years. So we were within, I think we were averaging like 4,500 a project, and now we're almost to 10.
Wow.
So we have the potential to make more margins on those larger projects, so that's not a bad thing. But so yeah, it's and I guess the way things have happened, we have been able to weed out some of the others that just don't make sense for us.
Sure. So when you say almost 10, this is strictly residential.
And it's both together.
Both.
Yeah,
Okay.
our average project. Yeah.
Sure. Got it. Okay. So
Yeah.
then you guys are doing a better job qualifying. Do you have kind of set criteria or standard operating procedures around, okay, if they say their budget is below this, we're going to say we're not a good fit, or how do you guys qualify?
Well, we don't ask over the phone. I mean, I think we do ask when we get there. So one of the biggest things, and I've had conversations with a lot of, industry leaders with this, is putting out marketing that is quality marketing. So our website, if you look at our website, has a beautiful old Victorian that has 7 different colors on it.
Yeah,
You
I have it
know,
behind you right now. The
yeah,
beautiful brick, yeah, home.
Right. And all our marketing has, real high-end looking houses and all that. So what we're trying to do there is we're trying to say, we're more like the Lexus ad than we are the Honda ad.
Yep,
You need to understand that if you call us, this is what we do, and this is what we're going to demand.
yep.
Um, and being in business for 42 years has also allowed us to use that, especially in York. So we are mostly in York, but then we also go closer to Harrisburg as well. So what we find is the market closer to Harrisburg, we do find a little more tire kickers up there, but most of the people in York know us, and they know that, yeah, you're going to pay more for us, but they know that the project's going to be done the way that they want it to be done.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Yeah, we talk at Painter
Yeah.
Marketing Pros a lot about, how do you become the 100-pound gorilla, the premium painter in your option and in your local service market, and don't be a commodity.
Right.
Commodity doesn't win. So you guys, you talked about marketing and putting quality marketing and putting out, making sure that your website is full of high-end homes. What else do you do, or what would you recommend for painting companies that maybe haven't been around for 42 years? Or is it 39, 42?
42.
42
Yeah.
haven't been around for 42 years, and maybe not everyone does know them. How can they kind of convey that same message? What can they do beyond putting high-end homes on their website?
I think one area that people forget about is to always cultivate from the past customers. So even if you've been in business for 6 months and you've done, I don't know, what, 30 or 40 projects, maybe that's too many. But don't forget about them. Always be marketing back to your customer base. Always be asking for referrals from your customer base. Your employees and your customers should be your two biggest advocates. If they're not, then something's not right. So I do occasionally I'll get that question from, guys that have been doing it for 6 months, a year. And I said, don't forget them, send them letters. Honestly, one of the ways that we increased our business was we used to do a call to our customers. We did it in the spring to get our spring leads going, and then we did it in the fall to get our winter leads going, but we don't need either one right now.
Yeah,
So we just send letters. We'll send a postcard, send Christmas cards, that kind of stuff, so that they know you're still around.
yeah, yeah. That
You just want to,
that call makes it very personal.
right.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Another option that we've seen work really well is kind of calling on the anniversary or the completion date of a paint
Oh
job.
yeah. Yeah, very
Checking
cool.
in. It shows not only do you remember them and that you're still around, you actually remember when you completed their job, and it goes a long
And
way. And people want to feel cared
if
for.
right, and if they do say, well, there's an issue, then you say right away, well, we'll be out to make it or fix it or whatever too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You got to be
absolutely.
ready. You got to be ready for that. If it,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, that makes sense, because you don't want to come at
Mhm.
it from the angle of, hi, this is Zach from Ausherman Painting. Do you have any referrals? It has to
Right.
be, hey, how we completed your job a year ago. I want to make sure that it still looks as
Everything's
good
good.
as we left it.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. So you guys are focused on remarketing, staying in front of your past customers, which is key. A lot of painting companies talk about how they grow through referrals, but they view it as this passive channel, right? And you're leaning into it, making it more active, because there's a lot of value there. Your most happy,
Mhm.
your most recent happy customer is your best salesman.
Mhm.
What else do you do for marketing? How else do you grow?
We do a lot of social media stuff. Instagram, Facebook. Now I don't know, and maybe this is something you would know more of, is how to really figure out ROI from that.
Mhm.
Um, but it, it's just a good way to get those, good pictures out. And one of the things that I try to do is try to give credit where credit's due. So if you look at most of our posts, like 90% of our posts, it'll mention the crew lead and maybe even the painter
Nice.
that's part of that project. Um, so that they get that credit for that. It's not about me. One of the things that I did January 1 was I uh, changed the name from Mike Ausherman Painting to Ausherman Painting. So I got rid of my dad's name. I didn't add my own. It's not about me. It's about my guys doing good work for the customers, and that's what I want it to be.
Yeah, that's great. So when you say social media, um, I guess you're referring to just organic posts, just being active on social media, not actually paid advertising.
We do some. So I will. Gary Vaynerchuk he has that was it jab? What does he call it? Jabs and then right hooks.
Yeah, jabs,
So
jab, jab, hook.
yeah, so all the little posts that I put out there about us doing this project or that project, those are just jabs. I mean, they're if someone sees something that they really like, maybe they'll call us on that. But occasionally, every couple months, you put out a right hook where you're really trying to get activated leads through that.
Mhm.
And we probably do 4 or 5 a year, and it's pretty much when the season changes over. And I will do it's not a boosted post. It is pretty much pictures that I cultivated from projects over that year. Or if I'm doing, if I'm trying to build up leads for winter, I'm going back to our last winter and picking, pictures from that last winter and promoting those. Um,
Yeah.
and then I do go by zip code through the Facebook ad program and all that to try to hit the people where I know the money is.
Yeah. 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 The targeting is very important. So
Yeah.
you are in an interesting situation for the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast because you were below a million not too long ago, and now you've almost doubled at this point in a pretty rapid time frame. So what do you, I guess, what do you attribute that success to over the last couple of years?
Being able to give up certain things. Well, I could say give up. So it was when we changed over the team and changed over the culture. The culture got better when we started doing more marketing. We started getting more leads. Well, then my dad and I couldn't handle the leads. I mean, right, even now we're scheduling new estimates for like 2 weeks out. I mean, it's insane still. Um, and then we realized that we needed to bring on a salesman. So we brought on a salesman. So that allowed us to, sell more. And then I have an office manager as well, and I have an office admin. So it was creating that back support behind the scenes that really allowed us to grow. And that's tough for some people because you don't know if you're gonna get the ROI out of it to pay them, and make sure that they're worth, what you are paying them to be able to do other things. That's hard.
Yeah, you kind of have to, I guess, in some ways, take a leap of faith, but try to do it in a
Right.
strategic fashion. You talked about a few different positions there that you filled that kind of offloaded the work for you. Which one would you fill first for someone looking to make a hire here?
So I think that's always the
It's a tricky question.
the very first thing that I think that anyone that's growing should do is get an office manager, get or an office admin. Um, Allow that person to do the stuff that you really don't want to do. Now I know there's bookkeeping services and all that, where they do bookkeeping, or they can do the paint ordering. They can do making sure the colors, all that kind of stuff, all the logistics stuff. That's the very first hire. Now the second hire really is what you don't like to do or what. Yeah. So if you're good at project management, hire someone to do sales. If you're good at sales, hire someone to do project management. I think that really is the key to that second big hire.
That makes
Um,
sense.
mhm.
Yeah.
Because it
Yep.
typically you're good at what you like doing and too. So if you like being out in the field with the guys, then get someone hire someone to sell. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. And it'll prevent burnout that way too, because you're doing what you want. I do want to clarify to anyone listening, and Zach, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you weren't saying hire a full-time bookkeeper, but find a service to kind of outsource some of these things.
if you need, yeah, if that's not a bad thing to do right away. So our office manager enjoys the numbers, so we don't use a
Okay.
bookkeeping service. So I mean, everybody's a little different. Um, but yeah, just running a small business like this can be incredibly daunting. It just can be. You can be working 60, 80 hours a week. And I'll be honest, I still do sometimes. So you have to figure out ways to offload, and you have to figure out ways to make it more efficient. Because I remember I had a college professor that would talk about the boulder that would just keep getting bigger behind you. You talk like Indiana Jones, like the boulder coming behind you. You just did enough to not get squished. So sometimes you feel like that, like and you gotta you gotta figure out a way to get away from that. Get away from the boulder and figure out a more streamlined approach or more efficient approach. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be tough because you're stuck operating the business, and you feel like if you stop, um, the business will die, or the customer complaints will start coming in. And so how do you kind of make that transition? I think you have to kind of do it in stages like you did.
yeah, we have the infrastructure in place that I can go away, for honestly, probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks and be okay. I'm not going to be, I've never been one that wants to, put a general manager in place so that I can go do what I want. It's my name on the business. So I'm still going to be, directly involved till forever. Um,
You're not heading to a
but
beach in Tahiti right now.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And I'd feel, honestly, I'd feel bad if I was gone for too long.
Yeah.
So
Feel
yeah,
kind of guilty.
right, right. I don't want to, yeah, let the bag on them to do everything. So yeah,
Plus your dad would probably yell at you,
yeah.
is my guess.
Well, he's retired now, so he's not part of the business anymore. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, no, I still think he'd probably yell at you though.
mhm, yeah.
Uh, so what's your company struggling with the most right now?
Um, we're actually doing okay with the paint shortage. I know that's a big deal for
Yeah.
everybody. We've switched over to Benjamin Moore within the last year, 2 years, and that's helped a lot. For some reason, they've been a little better now. I think they're going to be running into issues. They're warning us
Mm,
that they are. Um, my big thing, just like everybody else, is uh, hiring.
yeah.
Um, and what we're trying to do is there's a lot of like Nick Slavic and those guys that have kind of set the mold and set the map on creating the training to get green people, to get people that are just decent people to then
Right.
train them how to do it. We've been, I'll be honest, we've been incredibly lucky to have a lot of experienced guys. So I have 4 or 5 guys that have 25 years plus
Wow.
experience that are they're good. And I can rely on them. I don't have to be up their butt all the time to make sure it's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're good with the customers and all that. So we've been lucky there. Now I even told them last week, I said, we're gonna fight here and there soon about figuring out our SOPs because each one of them does things a little different. And
Mhm.
if we're ever really going to be able to grow it out, and for me, I don't want to be any bigger than like 18 or 20. That's
Mhm.
where I see our growth. But even to get to that point, we have to make things standardized because you're never going to be able to train someone to do things 4 different ways. You have to standardize it and it's going to be a little bit of conflict, but conflict that isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And then what do you think that your company's doing the best with right now?
Um, I think we do pretty good with the marketing in our area. Um, yeah, I think one of my goals has been to get our Google reviews up, which is it's a double-edged sword because when you have high Google rating, you get more tire kickers and all that. Um, but it's also allowed us to keep our leads flowing really well.
Mm.
So that's been a big priority for me, and we've been hitting our goals with those over the last year. We set up employee challenges for that. So what we do is I set a goal for 6 months, and if they hit that goal, then everybody gets a extra day off paid. And
Love that.
then we also give a monetary reward to whoever gets the crew lead that gets the most. And then occasionally what I'll do if it stalls, because every once in a while it stalls for this reason or that reason, I'm not sure. Just older customers that don't want to put their name online or whatever.
Mhm.
I'll do occasionally I'll say, okay, whoever gets the next one gets $50. And that'll spur a little bit of activity sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really love the employee incentivization, making it part of your culture to get those
Yeah.
reviews.
I've
So,
always
oh,
been about doing incentives on a wide basis too. I don't want it's okay to have friendly competition, but it can devolve into something that you don't want it to. So it's important that there's an overall goal for the company that everybody gets rewarded.
yeah, not the one guy who's best at getting the reviews is just getting everything.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So with customers, speaking of reviews with customers, what's the biggest blunder, whether your fault or not, or worst kind of situation that you've had with a customer, and how did you handle it?
Well, we had to, we just did have a 1 star review a couple of weeks ago. Um, and it was about a time and material job where the guy didn't quite understand. It's really strange, and we've worked with different wording on it. A small time and material job where the guy thought that it didn't matter if two guys were on the job, that you're only going to get paid for 1 hour. And we get that a lot, which is really
Mm,
strange. But and I've talked to customers here and there. When you take your car to the mechanic, if another mechanic works on your car at the same time, you're getting charged for 2 hours.
yeah.
It's yeah, it's not. They just don't eat that time when somebody's coming over. But he got upset and put a 1 star review on. Now I did I didn't call him or anything because to me it is okay. I honestly believe it's better to have a 4.9 than it is to have a 5.0.
Right.
I really do because if I'm looking at restaurants or I'm looking at this or that and I see a 5.0, I'm thinking, okay,
Looks a
how many
little
family
shady.
members, right? How many family members and how many other people did you get to put on there? So it's okay. I mean, I don't like that we have a 1 star review, but it's okay that we have a 4.9 because of it.
Yeah.
So
Did you guys
yeah,
reply to it or anything online?
yeah,
Yeah,
I put a long explanation of it.
it's good.
And I'm pretty good about not being too vitriolic with that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. One of the things that my guys tell me, and I've known this for a long time, that my it's kind of my strength and my weakness is that stay pretty even keeled.
Mhm.
So I can talk a customer off the ledge most of the time. Because we'll go in and make it right, or we one of the things that I guess this was probably a year and a half ago. My dad went in and did a kitchen cabinet project and told the guy that we could strip it and stain it, and we couldn't. So yeah, it wasn't gonna happen. So I went in there and explained, that we ran into this or that. I really do think that you would really like these painted though. We can make them, really look good painted. And he went with it.
Yeah.
Now I had to hold his hand a little bit. I had to show up, every couple of days, make sure things were going okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Had
So
to fix that, that
mhm,
incorrect expectations that were initially
right.
set. So how do how do you see the painting industry changing in the future, or do you see it changing in the future?
I think what we're seeing, and I know like Jason Paris talks about this and others talk about this. I think you're starting to see things become a little more professional. And I do think you're seeing more of a I forget what he calls it, a roundup, where the companies are starting to get a little bigger than they were in the past. Um, and I think that's a double-edged sword, because what that does is it allows the franchises and everything to commoditize us a little bit more. So
Mhm.
if you're pulling everyone together, then it's really hard to differentiate yourself from someone else.
Yeah, it becomes a little
Um,
bit more of a winner takes all scenario there.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. So I think you're seeing that a little bit. Um, and the subcontractor stuff, I I think it seems like that's growing. I'm not exactly sure that, but no, we just don't do it just because, we can put that perception out there. Now, I don't know if that perception is reality or not. I think a lot of guys have had good luck even with quasi models. You have half your guys are W-2s and half your guys are subcontractors, because I think one of the things that they've hit on with that is certain cultures want to own something, so they would rather be subcontractors, because then they own their own little business.
Right.
Or millennials are told all the time, and even the next generation are told that you're special and that you should own your own thing. So I mean,
Participation trophy.
right. So they want to have that ownership of that thing. So I think that's part of why the subcontractor base has grown a little. Um, and I'm okay with it as long as it's done right. I think sometimes the guys skirt IRS rules and all that kind of stuff. That's the biggest, um, honestly, bitch and moan that a lot of the guys that have been doing this for a long time, that have built great businesses with W-2 employees. That's their biggest thing. So if you have subcontractors, fine, but just do it the way that you're supposed to do it. They don't,
Yep.
don't have them act like employees, because they're not your employees.
Yep. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Zach, this has been great. Do you have any other advice for smaller painting company owners looking to grow, or anything else you'd like to add?
I think so. I was thinking about this because and when you sent the questionnaire and everything ahead of time, I was thinking about it. I think it's kind of strange. There are two sides to the spectrum. So you have the guys that are learning, that don't know much, and that's great. I mean, you're asking questions, they're going through the process, they're learning for themselves. But then on the other side, you have companies who will never grow because they think that they're the best at it, and I'll never be able to hire an employee because they can never do as good as me. You're you have to get that mindset out of your way. The guys that have done the best in this are more towards the middle. They know that they do good work. They also know that they have stuff to learn, and they also know that there are guys out there and employees out there that will paint better than them, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. You want guys that can do better work than you. um don't have the hubris that well, I'm the best and no one. You're never going to grow that way. And I may piss a little some people off with this guy. I kind of feel like that's like a refinisher mentality. Like
Mm,
it's never going to be as good as me.
yeah. It's almost like
Then
a
you're
New Jersey mentality, if you will.
Yeah, gosh. Edward and all
I'm
those
just
guys are
kidding.
going to come at me. No.
Yeah, you're gonna have some visits coming up, Zach. Um, all right. Well, Zach, hey man, I super appreciate you being a guest on the show. This was invaluable.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thanks a lot. I think you gave us a lot to think about, and especially with the succession planning. What I've found is kind of each guest that comes on the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast has their own unique story and their own unique value to add, and you certainly are no exception. So So thank you for your time and for sharing all this.
Yeah.
Hey there, painting company owners. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. And also, if you're interested in taking your painting business to the next level, make sure you visit the Painter Marketing Pros website at paintermarketingpros.com to learn more about our services. You can also reach out to me directly by emailing me at brandon@paintermarketingpros.com, and I can give you personalized advice on growing your painting business. Until next time, keep growing.